I'm not handing over anything! Hold your fire!
So where's your dad?
He's gone.
Dr. William Birkin, the man who created the infamous G virus from Resident Evil 2, the once hailed top researcher of the Umbrella Corporation, who would then fall from grace, eventually becoming one of the most fearsome and ferocious monsters that we've seen, not just in Resident Evil, but in gaming as a whole. But aside from his main spotlight role as the primary antagonist in Resident Evil 2, he was actually very much involved with the many evil dealings in the background, with some inhumane experiments that he's been involved in that span several decades in the Resident Evil timeline. So that begs the question, who exactly is he? When did he start his affiliation with the Umbrella Corporation? And what other actions has he taken in the shadows that influenced this series as a whole? And how did he discover and create the G virus, which in the end resulted in him becoming the apex monster that we saw him to be? Well, in this episode 3 of Explaining Evil, we delve into Dr. William Birkin's backstory and highlight some of the most important factors that he was a part of aside from his major role in RE2, and explain why he was such an evil human being as well. So sit back and relax as we explain evil with Dr. William Birkin.
I will take over your research.
Wesker, Birkin.
So as mentioned before, if we play through the countless iterations of Resident Evil, with the RE2 remake being the most recent that told the tragic story of William Birkin, well, we know that his eventual conclusion would have him succumb to the G virus infection. So for clarity's sake, we'll quickly cover what happened to him in RE2 and work our way backwards in time. So we start on the night of September 22nd, 1998. It's been a couple of months since the events of Resident Evil 1, with the discovery of the T virus by the RPD STARS team and the eventual infection of the entire city imminent, which on this fateful night of September 22nd, William Birkin's life would be changed forever, because in the last minute attempt of escape and gathering his life's work, the G virus, he would be met with the Umbrella Security Services, better known as the USS, the operatives that was supposed to apprehend both William Birkin alive and attaining the samples of his G virus. But as shown early in the video, William would suffer some fatal wounds and the sample of the G virus would be taken from him. Though unbeknownst to the USS operatives, William was still holding onto a sample of the G virus, and with the properties of this virulent strain known to cause cellular revitalization, William came to the conclusion of using his own G virus for himself to save his life from the bullet wounds he just suffered. The eventual outcome of this was his rapid mutation, with his body growing in stature, his right arm becoming grotesque, and the signature teratoma eyeball of the G virus spawning. His eventual actions would have him chase and hunt down the USS operatives that caused his injuries and who stolen his life's work, which upon further inspection, we realized that William would consume the leftover samples from the G virus and proceed to step on the vials of the T virus samples at the same time, leaving the rats to consume the virulent strain, leading to the accelerated infection of the city through the water and sewage system. Though this attack of William was only a prelude to what would happen in the following week, which the arrival of both Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield at Raccoon City in Resident Evil 2 will give us the rest of William Birkin's story, as we witness him start from the semi-mutated G-humanoid monster and still having some semblance of his former self. But as the game progresses, William's infection continues to grow, with each encounter leaving him injured, but coming back stronger and stronger, with the end result was a monster that we could have only imagined in our nightmares. Though as beneficial was the G virus to William, which kept him alive even with the constant fatal injuries he would receive, like a cancer, the G virus continues to spread and metastasize around his body, enveloping him in many teratoma eyeballs and then large flesh and claws. But the end result of the constant mutations would leave him in a large mound of flesh, with no semblance to any kind of humanoid figure that he once was, with his life ending due to the self-destruction of the Umbrella secret lab at the end of RE2. So with that said, though we saw William become this ferocious monster after his self-infection with the G virus, his story was actually much deeper than what we saw from Resident Evil 2. Because as mentioned earlier in the video, we can rewind back in time and see where it all began and explain some of the events that would lead to the eventual moments that we saw on the night of September 22nd.
I'm not handing over anything!
So the year is 1978. William at this time was just recently transferred to the Arkley Mountains Laboratory, famously known as the Spencer Mansion Estate, that was designed by an architect by the name of George Trevor, but a little bit more on him later on. But going back to William, having been an Umbrella top researcher at the young age of 16, this prodigious talent was noticed by the other co-founder of Umbrella, Dr. James Marcus, eventually becoming a student of the former, and interestingly enough, also was highly acquainted with another promising researcher at the time, who was revealed to be none other than Dr. Albert Wesker, leading the two researchers to conduct many heinous experiments for the next decade, with one particular candidate was seen to be the most important and most kept secret within Umbrella, which is revealed to be the tragic Lisa Trevor, a victim of the Umbrella Corporation, who was the daughter of the architect George Trevor, who designed the Spencer Mansion estate 11 years prior. Well, upon the introduction of Lisa Trevor to both William Birkin and Albert Wesker, the research and experimentations on her would continue on for the next couple of decades. This was very important because Lisa has been harboring many experimental variants of the progenitor virus within her body, with the first known experimentations on her happening on the latter part of the 1960s, which would be an important factor for William later on with his eventual discovery of the G virus. But before that momentous event, a very shady and evil dealings occurred in 1988, which would be the assassination of the Umbrella Corporation co-founder Dr. James Marcus. The reasonings for this was the increased rift between the founders of Umbrella and Oswell E. Spencer making the call to finally ending his former friend's life. And the revelation that would happen in congruence during this assassination was the appearance of both William Birkin and Albert Wesker, revealing the latter to take over Dr. James Marcus's work on the T virus. Well, as previously mentioned, the subsequent discovery of the G virus would occur very soon because Lisa Trevor at this point in her life had many variations of the progenitor virus within her body, and the constant experiments on her would cause an evolutionary change of variant strains inside of her. But a next step of a new experiment was at hand for William, which would lead to the discovery of the G virus, because due to the many years of constantly injecting her with many variants of the progenitor viruses, Lisa has lost a lot of her cognitive ability, and a way to mitigate this was to implant her with an experimental NE-alpha parasite, which this parasite was known to increase the cognitive function of those implanted with it. And to William Birkin's surprise, he observed the parasite to be completely overwhelmed once implanted in Lisa Trevor, in a way that her body would destroy the parasite itself, but would still absorb some of the genetic material, and splicing them together with the genetic material that was already been brewing within her body for many years already. This unsuccessful merge of Lisa Trevor and the NE-alpha parasite made William curious as to what caused the failure of the experiment. So upon further examination of Lisa post-inoculation of the NE-alpha parasite, a mutant strain was discovered inside of her, which was completely different from any variant viruses that she was given in the past, with William also theorizing that Lisa could have had this mutant strain since her primary infection in the late 1960s. And further examination into this new strain, William discovered some of his traits, which was the constant revitalization of the host cell and completely and constantly rewriting the genome of those infected. So this momentous event was the beginning of William's new research of this mutagenic virulent strain, naming it the G virus.
She is my creation!
The year is 1998. It's been 10 years since the discovery of the G virus by William Birkin, and in the past decade, much more funding was given to William to continue his research on this new strain. Even a new Umbrella Nest laboratory was built underneath Raccoon City for the sole purpose of the G virus. Also at this time, William has become the lead researcher of the facility, and everything was going as planned, or at least it should have. until the events of Resident Evil 0 happened, because we thought initially that William's role in the mainline games had him in the spotlight in Resident Evil 2, but in Resident Evil 0, he was very much highlighted with many cutscenes that explains his motives and his partnership with his old friend Albert Wesker. And some actions from William's past will come back to haunt him in this game, because later on, it's revealed that Dr. James Marcus was still alive and now has come back for revenge against those who betrayed him, which included William and Albert and Umbrella Corporation as a whole. Dr. Marcus started this rampage of revenge with the spread of the T-virus on the Umbrella train, the Ecliptic Express, the infection of the Umbrella training facility, and the eventual spread of the virus in the Arklay Mountains. These events would prompt William to try to cover up the spread of the T-virus and the revival of James Marcus. His reasonings for this was that if word got out that his involvement in the assassination of the Umbrella co-founder, his career would definitely be ruined and any chance of him rising to the top of the Umbrella executive board would be gone. So to cover up this messy ordeal, William initiated a self-destruct sequence to destroy the Umbrella training facility in an attempt to rid of any evidence of his involvement with the T-virus spread and the killing of Dr. Marcus. All these events are a precursor to what would happen in the following months, with the events of Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 playing out, resulting in the T-virus spread in the Arklay Mountains, the elite STARS team of the RPD to investigate the unusual murders in said mountains, and the revelation of the Umbrella Corporation being behind all these inhumane experiments. It just seems everything is going all downhill from here. Of course, William, still an Umbrella top research employee, was very much entangled with all the shady dealings of his employer. His involvement with all the illegal activities of Umbrella are so devious that William had to continuously bribe the Raccoon City Police Chief, Brian Irons, to constantly keep watch of anyone trying to uncover the truth of his research and experiments, which several files have covered the relationship between these two madmen. And depending on which version you read, you still will get a general sense on what was the ongoing situation at hand and William's G-virus research. So we'll cover both versions of the files from the original Resident Evil 2 and RE2 remake, beginning with this. To Mr. Brian Irons, Chief of the Raccoon City Police Department, we have lost the Mansion Lab facility due to the actions of the renegade operative Albert Wesker. Fortunately, his interference will have no lasting effect upon our continued virus research. Our only present concern is the presence of the remaining STARS members, Redfield, Valentine, Burton, Chambers, and Vickers. If it comes to light that the STARS have any evidence as to the activities of our research, dispose of them in such a manner that would appear to be purely accidental. Continue to monitor their progress and make certain their knowledge does not go public. Annette will continue to be your contact throughout this affair. I have deposited the amount of $10,000 to the account for your services this term as per our agreement. The development of the G-virus scheduled to replace the T-virus is near completion. Once completed, I am certain that I will be appointed to be a member of the executive board for Umbrella Incorporated. This is imperative that we proceed with extreme caution. Redfield and the remaining STARS members are still attempting to uncover the information on the project. Continue to monitor their activities and block all attempts to investigate the underground research facilities. We have a problem. I received information informing me that Umbrella HQ has sent spies to recover my research on the G-virus. There are an unknown number of agents involved. They must not be allowed to take this project away from me, as it represents my entire life's work. Search the city thoroughly for any suspicious persons. Detain any such individuals by whatever means deemed necessary, and contact me immediately through Annette. With these precautions, any possible threat should be eliminated. I will not allow anyone to steal my work on the G-virus, not even Umbrella. Alright, moving on forward with RE2 Remake's version of the communication between Chief Irons and William Birkin. Police Chief Irons, as thanks for your unwavering support, I have deposited a small sum into your account to use as you see fit. I hope I can count on you to maintain surveillance over your subordinates, especially the ones who survived that mansion. Get rid of them if you must. Police Chief Irons, I ran into some trouble with Umbrella headquarters. The suits want to take the fruit of my research away. But don't worry, this will all blow over soon. Just keep doing what I tell you to and everything will be alright. You are to up the security around my lab. Your muscle heads are to shoot any suspicious person on sight. Doesn't matter if they kill them or even if they're Umbrella employees. I'm so close to completing G and no asshole's gonna get in my way. Get your shit together and do your fucking job. I told you I need more security in the sewers. Don't you know how critical of a time this is for me? As for the money, I can pay you whatever once I take over, but not before. Why don't you get that? Never forget how expendable you are. So as we see, the overarching theme of both versions still explains William's bribery of Chief Irons, using him as a safeguard to his research on the G virus. But more importantly, it's revealed that Umbrella has sent spies to monitor the progress of the G virus and eventually being taken away from William by force. This underhanded move by Umbrella would cause William to reach out to the US government, which he would provide information on his research into the G virus in exchange for asylum for his family and himself. Well, in the end, that would not happen because there would be intel within the US government that notifies Umbrella of William Birkin's betrayal. So before his planned escape with his life's work, he would be ambushed by the Umbrella USS operatives as mentioned early in the video, explaining the start of the events that caused him to become the ferocious G monster we saw in Resident Evil 2. And finally, before we end the video, let's quickly dive into one more file that perfectly summarizes William's behavior after he infected himself with the G virus, which reads: the G virus clinical trial will be entering its final phase very soon. Before G, the new creature that will surpass humans, is born, allow me to predict a few things about its biology and biological functions. Intelligence. The subject's intelligence will begin to drop immediately, with their linguistic abilities disappearing within a matter of days. Finally, they will lose their capacity to reason and their humanity. G will be a creature of pure instinct, driven only by the need to survive and reproduce. Physical abilities. Due to its unusually accelerated cell division, evolution, it will be highly adaptable to any environment. Furthermore, with its amazing ability to repair itself through regeneration, it will be extremely difficult to completely kill it with any conventional small firepower. Reproductive behavior. G's most remarkable feature will be its intense desire to reproduce. It will instinctively search out humans with DNA that closest matches its own and implant an embryo in them. But the chances of success are very low, and if the DNA is not a close enough of a match, an underdeveloped G creature will be produced instead. I suppose the only ones who might be a close enough of a match would be any biological children of the subject. Anyways, what did you guys think of William Birkin and his many heinous and evil actions that he's committed throughout the Resident Evil timeline? Please let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Also, if you guys want more episodes of Explaining Evil, then please feel free to like and subscribe for more content like this in the future. Anyways, I do hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Explaining Evil featuring William Birkin. And as always, you guys have a great rest of your day, and this is Hey Deva, and I'll see you guys on the next video.
I will take over your research.
Wesker, Birkin.